right, just want to confirm everybody sees my screen, right? Okay, cool. All right, so hi everyone. I'm Kevin, product designer in Growth, and today I'm going to be talking about new user onboarding. Oops, sorry. So before we go ahead, I just want to kind of point that onboarding is way more than sign up. It's actually a continuous process that spans across the whole customer life cycle. And it's kind of critical for us to keep pitching the value of our features to user consistently and constantly so that we kind of retain as much as possible new users and we transform them into happy customers. So today I'm just going to be talking about the surface of this, which is new user onboarding. And what's a successful strategy at this point? Well, if you kind of check what the industry is saying is basically try to get people to your product value as fast as possible and remove all friction on the way. So I think a good example of that you may have is your favorite food delivery app. They probably have the same strategy. Now, the problem is when your product is covering the whole DevOps lifecycle, the product value is kind of scattered across multiple stages, and it's not the same for different personas, like a software engineer, a product manager, product designers, and security analysts won't see the same value in your product. So before we try to kind of simplify, so here we had this kind of 4 tills cards, and the main one was going to create a project, because if you cannot, if you don't create your project, then it's hard to access most of the features. And you also try to guide, so with this little helper here on the right, guiding you through multiple steps, as in like setting a project, creating issues, creating a merge request. So all this is great for the first day, but then what? Well, then most of the time we send users to the GitLab documentation, either through empty states or through other links within the app, which kind of creates this flow of people are in app trying to do something, but then we send them elsewhere in our GitLab documentation, and they have a lot of text to parse and then have to go back. And it seems that it's not enough, basically, because if we look at our system usability scale, the last, I don't know, I would say year, optimizing documentation and learnability are a recurring theme in there. So we were kind of thinking as a team, like, how can we bridge this gap? Well, we had a couple of ideas, and one of it was it needs to be in app, so closer to the action. It should be accessible after the first day. So again, to kind of following on this idea of continuous onboarding. And it should be flexible and tailored to users' needs. So we kind of came up with an MVC that was actually quite big. But we had a couple of main ideas. And the one that stand out was creating a Sandbox project, mainly because it was a good opportunity to create a safe space where you could experiment with the features without having to worry about breaking production code or development branches. And a good way to introduce you to this Sandbox project would be the issue board. We thought it was a good place to have a basically high overview of all the things that you could do. And having it as this type of Kanban style could be familiar to our users. Other advantages would be we would be onboarding people to GitLab using one of GitLab course features, so dog fooding. It is also easy to tailor for us because it's issue that we can write up, move across, and remove as we want. And again, it's a dedicated space, so they can reference to it anytime, or they can even share it if needed. So once we had this idea, it was like, okay, so where to start? We know that software developers are our main personas, but we kind of wanted to back this up by data. And when we look at our new sign up by role, so here I took a specific period that happened when we introduced this data collection to when we started working on the onboarding board, we clearly see that software developer lead the way. So we decided to focus our first MVC on software developer. So we quickly built up a prototype of this where you had a little helper on the right that was kind of introducing you to the project through the issue board, and a couple of tooltips to guide you through the process. And then each issues were divided into multiple sections. So the first one was more description of the issue, and then the second was next steps, like actionable next steps that you could do within the app. So moving forward, we wanted to test this prototype with users. So we started with user testing. We could recruit 10 non-GitLab users that we divided into 2 groups. So 5 person had this experience without having to go through sign up, and 5 others had to go through sign up. The reason we did this is that when we started with the no sign up flow, basically people were a bit confused of what was happening. Like directly landing on an issue board was probably not the best. So then we kind of added the sign up flow to all that, and we managed to get mainly software developers. So what we got out of this is that the tooltips were working, but the in-app messages, so the little helper on the bottom right, was not adding that much value. The next steps in the issues were working very well, but the groups versus project relationship was confusing, mainly because on the prototype without the sign up, we were asking you to create a group within a project. It was yeah, people didn't realize what was a group, what was a project. And to kind of solve this, we tried to iterate on the prototype and adding the group and project creation to the sign up part. And it actually worked way better. Then what worked well as well was the learning by doing instead of like passing, observing. And then, yeah, about the issue line, some people kind of read it through, some people just went very fast on it. And knowing that it could come back to the project was a thing that worked well, although they were not too sure at this stage. Because remember, they were non-GitLab users, so they had no idea of what the app looked like. So our final prototype looked like this. So like I said, we added the group and project creation, and we retained the tooltip. And in addition to this, sorry, this is a GIF, so it's going to happen. We added this slide with the novice and experienced split. The reason we did this was to trim the number of issues on the board. So if you would choose novice, you would kind of have some basic things that was kind of tailor to software developers. So we had CI/CD, merge request. And if you would go to experience, you would have more advanced things like Kubernetes, Docker images, how to set up all that. Next, we wanted to test this at scale, so we ran an A/B test. So basically, we put up this against our base, which was the 4 cards, then versus the onboarding board. So we ran that for 5 weeks, and we had roughly 300K people. We did this on SaaS, and we wanted to see the impact on conversion rate, stage adoption, and user retention. So the learnings, first one, the tooltips were actually not effective. So yeah, the user testing session was kind of pointing out that the tooltip were working well, but what actually happened during the A/B test is that only 2% of the people that were enrolled actually reached the issue board. So the 98% of the other users were vanishing elsewhere. But we still saw an increase in stage adoption, and mainly in create, release, and verify, which kind of pull back into, cascaded into new user retention. So we roughly had 6% increase for 30 days observed in 30 days period. And to this day, we still don't know how this impacted conversion. So we're still trying to review this, but it's trending upwards. So it's positive for now. This one is a bonus one. Copy is key. We're still trying to validate this one. But if you remember the previous screen, we had one of the previous screens, sorry. We had this split between novice and experienced, and the distribution actually shows us that most of the people that were enrolled choose novice. So can you then conclude that most of the software developer that sign up for GitLab are novice in DevOps? Well, not yet. Basically, if you look closer at the screen, again, that's my hypothesis. But we could have biased them toward picking one option over the other. And in this case, novice has this CTA that is show me everything versus experience that is show me more advanced stuff. At this time of the journey, maybe you would pick show me everything. So we're basically going to try to iterate on this copy and see if it affects the distribution. So to conclude, this is still a success. But I think what we kind of learn testing this at scale is that it's probably misplaced in the user journey. Maybe it shouldn't be at the very beginning. Maybe it should be like later on, and the very beginning should be something different than the onboarding board. And basically, oops, sorry, looks like something's not working. Our next steps. So we want to fill in the blanks because we still don't know this. Where are users going? What are they doing after sign up? That's a massive link. And actually, that's really good that we were able to identify this through the A/B test. We want to run a version of this without the tooltip guidance, and again, see how this affects our metrics. And on a broader scale, the whole growth stage is actually brainstorming on what could be the rest of the onboarding journey. So thank you for your attention. And also thank you to everyone that worked on this, because it was a massive project. Like PMs, designer, data engineers. It was a lot of collaboration working across like so many months. And also special thanks to Matej for driving the design part on this. I think it was really amazing to have him on board on this. Thank you.